Today we're going to be talking about solving word problems with decimals for adding and subtracting. As we're working, we're going to be paying close attention to the language in the word problem to help us distinguish between, again, adding, subtracting, and continuing to practice the skill of being able to do the calculation by lining our decimal points up. One thing I want to go over before we get into word problems where we are having some struggles is when we are subtracting with decimals. So if we look at this second problem, I'm going to start by going over this. Okay, so if I'm subtracting, just like when I'm adding, it's important to make sure that our decimal points are lined up. So before I do anything else, I'm going to set it up so that the two decimals start on top of each other. One important thing to note is when we have a whole number, like we do here with 15, the decimal falls right after the ones place, so at the end of the number there. So when we go to fill this in, you should have 15 and then the decimal point. Then we're subtracting 387 thousandths. Those come after the decimal point. Remember, when we're adding and subtracting, we then want to fill in any of these empty spaces with zeros. Now, there is exactly a number on top or below each of the digits. What makes the subtraction step a little more difficult is that we have to regroup. Okay, so one mistake that we commonly make is when we see 0 take away 7, we think the answer is 7. But we really have none, and we want to take 7 away. 7 is larger than 0, so I would need to try to regroup. Normally I would want to regroup from the closest possible one, but that's a 0. And then the next one is a 0, so we have to go all the way to the 5 to regroup. When I do this, 5 becomes 4, 1 less than 5 is 4, allowing this to become 10. But I need to regroup all the way to the end, so we cross the 10 off, and that becomes 9. And the same thing happens here. I still need to regroup to that last 0, so this 10 becomes 9. Allowing finally here at the end, this 0 is now 10. Now that I have regrouped, I can just subtract. So 10 take away 7 is 3. 9 take away 8 is 1. 9 take away 3 is 6. 4 take away 0. And 1 take away 0. Remembering to then just drop the decimal point down. Now let's apply this to word problems. Lauren has $45 and her friend has $5.68. How much do they have all together? All together means I'm going to combine those two values. So this is an addition problem. Again, we're going to see I have $45, which means when I line these up, the decimal comes after the 5. Making sure then, when I line up the decimal from the second number, the 5 goes underneath the 5, decimal point, then the 6, and the 8. Again, I'm going to then fill in my 0 placeholders and add these together. 0 plus 8, 0 plus 6, 5 plus 5 is 10, which means I put down the 0, carry the 1, and 1 plus 4 is 5. And again, once we have them added up, because the decimals lined up, we can see all we have to do is drop it down. Remember when we're doing word problems to include a label. For this one we're talking about money, so we can just use a $sign as a label. The next example, again, I'm going to read through and try to decide, is this going to be adding or subtracting today? So you need to be 39 3/37 inches tall to ride on a bumper car. Diego's cousin is 35 7/75 inches tall. How many more inches will he need to grow before he can go on the bumper car ride? In this example, we want to find the difference between two numbers. So we want to find the space between what the requirement is and how tall Diego's cousin is. When you're trying to find that difference, remember to subtract. So when we're subtracting, the order is important. So the difference between how tall, so 39 and 37 hundredths, you have to be. And then again, making sure we're lining up. So the tens is under the tens, the ones under the ones, decimal point. Making sure again I have one number on top of each. Then again, we just go ahead and subtract. 7 take away 5. Okay. Be careful when you're subtracting again to watch out for when you need to regroup. Okay, so I want to take 7 away from 3. Okay, 7 is bigger than 3, which means I'm going to go to the 9. Cross that off, this becomes 8. When we regroup, we're just putting a 1 in front of the original number, so this becomes 13. 13 take away 7 is 6. 8 take away 5 is 3. And 3 take away 3. Again, dropping my decimal point down. Remember to include that label. So in this problem, we're talking about inches. And so I could then circle this as my final answer. Okay, take your time when doing problems like this. Give yourself space and make sure that you're lining up those decimal points.